What's up, guys? All right, so this is episode 1 of Creek Runner 242 Extreme Trash Pulling, and basically, I've spent some time putting together what I think to be is going to be a pretty cool show for you guys. Basically, allowing me to kind of take you guys with me while I'm pulling this trash out of the creeks, and do provide commentary on the whole thing. It'll kind of be like some of the live streaming stuff that you see out there, some of the stuff these gamers do. Except with this is this is live action reality TV, I guess you could say. Sort of that first person style. Although I'm going to experiment with some different camera angles, and hopefully at some point have maybe 2 cameras rolling at the same time so I can switch back and forth with angles. So pretty much just to give you guys a little bit of kind of background on this, I wanted to provide something so that I could have for Patreon, so that I could take my fans with me. And a lot of people out there, have been wanting to show support, and I thought, why not just make a show? I have a video background myself. I was actually a video major in college, so I'm going to be putting a couple of shows on Patreon. This, as well as art, behind the scenes sort of making of art, where I'll be, doing some driftwood pieces, hopefully some welding metal pieces at some point, and it's kind of just showing you guys how I make things and do art, because art's a huge passion of mine, and I felt like, why not fight trash with art? So the art of trash fighting is basically me finding a way to sustain myself and make a living through creation and content creation and art creation. That's what all of this is about. And be able to get these creeks cleaned sustainably by doing this. And I think it's a pretty good plan. I've spent some time developing this, like I said. Until now, I've not had an income from doing this. It's just been me out there, doing it, and trying to figure out the best method to create content and get something going with it all. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So this footage was actually shot back in the summertime. This was the very first episode, which is raining, as you can see. It was the very first episode that I shot, and I was a little bit concerned about just showing it by itself. Originally, I was just planning on showing this just by itself, maybe put some music in there, but I quickly realized that was just really, boring. So I thought, eventually I started watching these kids, doing these live streaming gaming stuff, and who wants to watch a kid play a video game? But they're talking, and they're talking about what they're doing and playing, and it's a huge thing now. And I'm not really a gamer. So I've got a very similar format, I guess you could say, a similar format, except it's me fighting trash, and I'll be able to take you guys and show you guys like all this stuff that I'm doing. This was a pull back in July, late July. I believe it was late July. But anyways, it was back in July, and when I did this trash pull, this was probably my largest single day trash pull. And I had this mentality of, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to get as much trash as I possibly can. And so I did. I think I had 12 bagfuls. Came out to 400 pounds total, maybe, or 300 and something pounds. It's hard for me to even keep track of it anymore. So anyways, this is the process of how I kind of have to do things. Get the bag up to the side of the road, if it's next to the road, that's the first bag. I was numbering the bags while I did this. And I'm kind of going to cut a lot just to show you guys the pieces that I pull out, what I can, what was on camera okay. There's a lot of walking shots that I'm not going to include, and I'm just going to, I'm just trying to show you guys the content of the actual trash that I pull. So I know that maybe sometimes the angle is not going to be the best in the world, and I apologize for that. That's something I'm going to have to work on over time, sort of finesse to sort of get it in a way that looks the best. I've been considering lately wearing like shoulder pads and mounting a mount that goes in kind of in behind me and having a camera angle coming from there. Just gonna have to look and work on that, but that would probably be at least episode like 6 or something. So here we have this is like some really nasty fabric, which I find lots of it. Sometimes it is actually grown into the ground, and there's moss and stuff all over it, and a lot of times I'll just leave that, because really, if you think about it, it's tearing up more, it's doing more harm than good to try and rip it out of the ground. But this particular piece, it was just kind of wedged in there. It wasn't really it wasn't being recycled by nature yet. Really, it was just kind of stuck in that limb thing there, or that root. And generally, when I find fabric like this, I usually I think I'm taking all the water out of it, wring the water out of it, because it weighs like 4 times what it normally would, with all of the water and the mud and stuff. And I get a lot of fabrics like that just have tons of mud and debris and things like that. So just kind of flop that around, wring it out. It's kind of, that's part of the job. It's definitely what you would think of maybe as one of those dirty jobs. I could definitely see this being on that show. I don't even know if that show's around anymore, the Dirty Job show. But sometimes I come out of the creek and I'm just absolutely filthy completely, and I'm covered in mud, or wet and covered in mud, smelly mud. There's a nice looking bottle right there. And so then my wife is pretty much like, oh my gosh, But so I smell up the car, and I have a SUV, old model SUV that's pretty much been sacrificed to this. That's my weight, my scale. When I first decided to start doing this, I was weighing the bags up in front of the camera just to try and do it that way. This is the only episode where you'll see me actually do this. See, that was like 28 pounds for that bag. I've just found it easier not to even fool with that until after I pick everything. So I weigh all the bags up at the same time afterward. But I thought it might be a little bit extra element. At the time, I was, it was just going to be the footage, and it wasn't going to be me talking about it either. So I was trying to just add another element of interest into it. But, like I was getting into about the car, well, that's a really big piece of metal right there. I pretty much, my 2006 model SUV has pretty much been sacrificed to the creek pulling efforts. I've got a trailer that I pull in behind it, but also all of my equipment and me, ride in the car. I've got a tarp in the back, and sometimes I lay bags of stuff, trash and stuff back in there, and the car is just, you know, it stinks. But you know, it is what it is. I'm one to utilize the resources that I have. I absolutely would not ever put trash. My wife's got an SUV. I would not put any trash into her car, for sure. And anyways, for right now, eventually I'd like to get a pickup truck, you know, and then I could just throw everything in the bed of the pickup truck, and I don't even have to worry about anything getting in there, into the car. But for right now, like I said, that's what I'm working with, and that's pretty much what I got going on. So here's another. Looks like it's a pretty nasty looking cloth thing pulling out there. Gotta get some of the water weight and stuff out of that too. Yep. That's pretty disgusting. I hope you guys aren't squeamish for stuff like this. But you know, you all see my pictures where I post the haul, you know, the total haul and everything, and you don't actually get to see everything that goes into, you know, this end result. But you just pretty much get to see like a couple of pictures of cool stuff that I pulled out, and I have done some, you know, the Creek Runner episodes where I've kind of had people kind of go along with me a little bit, but for the most part, you know, this is the first time you really get to see like sort of the action of all of this, and it's, you know, it's enjoyable. Honestly, I enjoy doing this. I know that, you know, it's more about the fact that this stuff is in there and getting out there, getting out of the creek, and doing all of this was originally it was started because I was not happy. I don't know if some of you guys may have heard me tell this story before, but for everybody who hasn't, the reason that all of this started was because I came across some mattresses that were in the creek, and it kind of blew my mind because I don't, at least not that I remember, had I ever found a bunch of mattresses just in the middle of a creek bed. And it aggravated me, and my wife and I tried to take some action with it, to get, you know, some people out there to try, local, city, state, to get out there and get it. But before anybody could even do anything, a flood came through, and literally I watched mattresses floating down the creek, and a couple of them landed right in front of where I lived at. And so anyways, the next day, you know, we found these mattresses just sort of laying there, and made some phone calls. I think I sent out an email, tried to get somebody to do something about it, and what ended up happening is the neighbors, the people that own the property across from the creek, actually pulled those out, and there was a point when I was actually going down the creek on foot, running down the creek, and I found this another mattress. So there was a bunch of them. I found another mattress, and I got my brother and my wife's brother to help me pull it out. And there was also a box springs, which my wife did some video of me. I pulled the box springs out, pretty much ran out of the creek with the box springs on my back. And that's this was last fall, and that's really how this all started. It started with me just being unhappy with the fact that there was all of this in the creek. And while I was getting, these big items, I noticed that there was a lot of small items as well. I noticed, that there was scrap metal, like what I'm pulling out right now. I noticed that there was lots of bottles, lots of cans, and I hadn't really noticed it before that point. But at that time I'd started creek running, which was, sort of just me running up and down the rocks, sort of an endurance training. And I like to wear a helmet and padding and everything while I'm doing it. And I don't even do it that often anymore. There was see, I just fell down right there. That's something that can happen that's one reason why I do wear this helmet. I mean, that helmet kind of saved me right there. At any given time, especially if you're hauling, like right now I'm carrying a bag that probably weighs 25 pounds, and boom, fell straight down. It can easily happen. So that's a good reason to wear a helmet, because if I fell and hit my head, if it knocked me out and I was in the water, or if I fell into the water, who knows? So this is one of my favorite little waterfalls on this creek right here. Every time I see it, I have to give it a big salute and do the wave, and that's just something that I do. I have a deep respect for water, and I like to greet my waterfalls as friends, basically. I know that's going to sound kind of weird to some of you guys, and maybe it sounds like some sort of hippy-dippy kind of stuff, but that's just kind of how I am. I wouldn't really call myself a hippie, or I don't know. I have trouble even classifying myself. It's just I love nature. Hey, there's a little picture somebody took, and I guess they didn't like the picture. But that's just kind of how I am. Really try to stay as connected to nature as possible. And so if getting all this trash out, pulling all this trash on a daily basis, I get to stay connected with nature. It's great. I was talking about something a few minutes ago. I kind of got off track a little bit. I was talking about kind of the origins of this, pulled out the mattresses, and getting into the smaller stuff, and how it kind of progressed from there. I think that's like a kitty litter jug or something right there. See, one thing you also have to consider is I'm right next to the road here. The road runs literally right next to this creek, so there's all kinds of trash and debris that gets thrown from people who are driving by. And which right now, as you can tell, the creek is really down. A lot of times, this right here will all be underwater. There'll be at least 6 inches deep of water through here, but we're at this point, I think maybe it hadn't rained in 2 or 3 weeks. The water's pretty down, and that makes it easier for me to get trash out when the water's down like this. It's kind of the best time to pull trash, and it gives me the opportunity to get it out, especially before it gets to the river. And one thing that a lot of people have to realize too is all of this trash, if I don't get it out now, eventually it's going to end up in the river. And then if it floats around in the river long enough, eventually it's going to end up in the ocean. And then who knows, some of the trash that's in here may end up in the big Pacific garbage patch in one of those islands. It's just who knows where this stuff is going to end up. I couldn't imagine. It would be funny to have trackers on some of these plastic bottles just to see where they go. I mean, obviously it's better to pull the bottles out of the water, but I'm just saying it would be kind of interesting to see, you know, how many miles do they actually travel. It's kind of crazy to even think about. But I pull out so much plastic, just plastic bags, not just like small plastic bags, but like big sheets of plastic, you know, the kind of like thick plastic that they'll put in greenhouses and stuff. I pull that kind of stuff out all the time. Large landscaper type plastic, I'll pull that out too. But it's just, it's really kind of crazy. If you look at it in one specific small area, a lot of times it's easy to miss how much really is in these creeks. Because if you were to just look out over that water and say you were driving by, you wouldn't even really think, oh, this is just completely trashed. Well, the thing is, you got to take a closer look, and you actually start walking around and you start saying, oh, there is a lot of trash in here. And then of course, one thing about it is I can go sometimes 100, 200 yards and not see anything, and then I'll come upon basically a trouble spot. And that's what I usually get hung up on. Sometimes I will have to spend 2 or 3 trash pulls in just one small area where there's a lot of trees and debris and stuff. That's where a lot of things will get hung up, and you're gonna see some more spots like that in this episode. I think there's a couple of spots actually here in a few minutes where you'll see just tons of stuff piled up in one specific area, and then clusters like this. What you're seeing right here, this is a cluster. It's got some water holes, as you can see, and there was some sort of fencing or something there with it, which a lot of flooding will cause fencing and things like that to get washed out into the creek, and it'll get tangled up in the tree. And of course, when the fencing gets tangled up into the tree or wound up into it, then when it floods, also pieces of plastic, pieces of fabrics, things like that will get into that, which I'm pulling out right now. That looks like some sort of a music. Maybe it was a radio or something. So it'll all kind of get wound up into this ball, and those are usually pretty frequent. I find stuff like that where it's all kind of concentrated into one area. And so, anyways, here we go. This is a bridge here. It's got a lot of graffiti on it. A lot of kids around here, I guess, like to put their mark, put their name on the bridge, and want to climb up around this bridge because there's a lot of trash up around through here. Tate's Creek is one creek that has a lot of access points, a lot of bridges. I think that's one reason maybe why it is so polluted, is because there's so many places that people can pollute from. Not to mention the fact that a lot of this creek runs right next to the road. So it's getting, lots and lots of these like styrofoam cups and plastic bottles and beer cans and everything from people that are driving down the road. And then the bridges also, you get a lot of people who are trying to find somewhere to dump their trash. So that's why I've stumbled on a couple of really big dump sites, and then of course the mattresses that get dumped and things like that. There was a pill bottle right there, which with the pill bottles, you know, they always know to take their name off of it. So, because, you know, since they're going to chuck it into the creek or on the side of the road, they know that not to leave their name on it. And I've had people suggest before, try to find names to turn people in. I've never found a single name of anybody. So that's yet to happen. And I guess these people who are doing the dumping they probably do it at night, because I've never seen anybody doing any dumping out here in broad daylight. They probably wait till 1 o'clock in the morning when everybody's asleep. I've also had people suggest putting cameras on the bridges, but like I said, there's like 6 different ones. It's probably, you know, that's 6 different cameras that would need to be put on this creek to, you know, try and catch them. And you never know when they're going to do this. In the past 6 months, I found two dump spots where they actually threw garbage bags and stuff. And then, well, of course, the mattresses. So I don't know how frequently that's happening. Some of these mattresses that I found in there could have been in the creek for a year or longer. I mean, they have mold and different things on them. So, anywho, let's see what we got going on here. New bag. These are brand new bags. And I got them from a company called Guards Inn, which is really awesome. I mean, these bags are pretty much like tarps. For anybody that's interested in doing this, it's the best bag I've found for doing this. They'll generally hold up to 50 pounds, although you probably do not want to be carrying, you know, 50 pounds around. And that would just be an incredible amount of trash to be hauling around. But I generally, about 30 pounds is usually my max to be walking for a long distance. 30 pounds is pretty reasonable, and I'll take breaks, you know, walk maybe 100 yards or a little bit further, take a break, walk more, take a break until I get to one of these points here, like a bridge, because I don't just walk through people's properties. I always go straight to the public access points to extract everything. But, you know, for this particular, where I've got all these different varieties of trash, where I've got like what is that? That's a bumper, or maybe? I think that was a bumper or something. You know, you need a big heavy-duty bag to do that with scrap metal and all of this. So each one of these bags, they're 72-gallon bags, so they're good size. They make bigger ones, but I thought, this is plenty big. If I can't fit it in this bag, then I'm just going to have to carry it by hand, whatever it is, you know. And that happens sometimes. I'll get things that are gigantic, and I'll just pack them all the way to the road individually by themselves. So, like I said, this was a pretty big trash haul. Most of these videos are going to be about half an hour. This one, I believe, comes in at 42 minutes. It was a lot bigger trash haul than I usually do. I think I spent most of the day doing this haul. Because like I said, I think I pulled out 12 bags, and I covered a very large distance. And a lot of times my trash pulls will take 3 to 4 hours, and that's just to get it, you know, to get it pulled out, to get it out of the creek. And it is kind of, it can be exhausting work, you know, specifically in the part where I've got to carry these bags over long distances. That can be pretty exhausting. I can come out of the creek really feeling like I got to work out. That's for sure. But then, you know, once I actually get the trash out of the creek, then I've got to, you know, get it out, get it home, get it sorted out, and because I always try to recycle the cans, the scrap metal, I separate all of that, and then the styrofoam and the stuff that gets thrown away, I put in its own, you know, in garbage bags, carpet, things like that, that I really cannot recycle. Plastic bottles, things like that go in their own separate bags for recycling. Then I take that stuff in to the local center. I just felt like, you know, I'm pulling out thousands of pounds of this stuff. I don't want to just pull it all out and it all go straight back into the dump. You know, it just seemed like a better solution to try to recycle and try to, at least what I can, recycle. So a lot of these plastic bottles, I'll be honest, if they're really bad, I gotta throw them away, because I know that the recycling center is going to reject them. Because if they're filled full of mud and they're absolutely nasty, and I can't, and they're not easily to clean, because I like to try and wash the bottles and spray them off with a water hose, but if they're just in really bad shape, then there's really no point, and I do have to throw them away. But like I said, I save what I can, recycle what I can. This is not a perfect system, the way I'm doing this. I know that. It's just what I've got available right now. Eventually, my wife and I I've talked many times about wanting to open up our own facility locally, have basically a good-sized pole barn sorting facility where we could compile all of the garbage, and I could use all the scrap metal to turn into art that I possibly could, and just a better way of recycling everything. To have our own sorting center, our own office, headquarters kind of thing. So that's taking time to develop. It's probably going to take, you know, a while, but I have high hopes for that we can get this to a point where, and especially with starting to do group pulls and things like that, I'm really going to need a team of people, and I can't go everywhere in the country. I know just from listening to fans and, you know, connecting with people from all over the country, there are creeks all over this country that need cleaned. I know there has been a couple. I've had two people say that, oh, well, our creeks are actually pretty clean. I think there was a guy in Oregon that said that the creek near them was clean, but mostly what I get is people saying, hey, when you get done with, you know, the creeks in Kentucky, come to Virginia or come to Florida or come to Missouri. I mean, people are, you know, saying their creeks are just as filthy as this. So basically, you know, the goal is to create a methodology, a business plan, so to speak, to get the creeks all over the country clean. If all the creeks in the country are like this creek, which I'm sure some are not as bad, and I'm sure there are some that are even worse. I've seen videos, I've seen footage of some creeks that are probably 3 or 4 times as bad as this one. So what I would really like to see is a full-scale, massive operation of creek runners. And right now I'm trying to basically create a program. You know, imagine seeing 100 creek runners doing exactly this, each in their own states, pulling in crowdfunding in their state. You know, eventually, which I do have creekrunners.com, and eventually that's what I would like to have, is a link, sort of like a nonprofit association that would link all the creek runners together. So if you're in, say, Missouri, or if you're in New York or wherever, hopefully there'll be a creek runner in your state, and you can just, you know, go on the creek runners, click on it, and boom, you can check out and support that creek runner. I know different states have different regulations on doing this sort of thing. Some states and cities and things like that require permits and all sorts of things. So getting this as an operation for the entire country would be very, 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 very difficult. So I'm basically taking things one step at a time. And step one is obviously for myself to get a feasible, a good income out of this that I can basically live off of, and support my family, my wife and daughter, and soon to be son. So I definitely want to do this full time, and this Patreon account seems to be one of the best ways. You know, there's 225, I think it's 225 million people on Patreon. Seems like to be a great way for content creators to make a good living. I want to be able to see creek runners all over the country, and you know, it would be awesome if I could recruit a creek runner, you know, and say, hey, all you need is an action cam, and I can put you on my website, and you know, people in your state would be able to see you pulling trash and support you while you do it. And as long as you have, you know, checked in to make sure that you can do it and where you're at, you know, legally and everything like that, that it would be, I mean, it'd be great. We could get trash cleaned up all over the country this way. I know that there's other business models. 4Ocean has their own business model for getting trash out of the oceans, and you know, I definitely like the idea of doing the shirts and things like that. I've always kind of wanted to do things my own style, my own way, and you know, I'll have shirts available and things like that. But I feel like my main source of income will probably be a cross between the Patreon and the art. I'll plan on basically fighting trash with art is going to be the biggest thing, which I'll have an episode of that up soon as well. So every month on Patreon, you'll have, you know, a couple of episodes of this, of the extreme trash pull, where I'm just basically going head to head, you know, fighting trash like this. And then you'll also have a couple of episodes of relaxing me, you know, making art and talking about art and whatnot. So I think it'll work out really well. I really do. And I'm very hopeful for the future. This creek right here is only the beginning. So out of Tate's Creek, I've pulled at this point approximately, I believe, about 6,000. I have to go back and look, but I know it's somewhere around 6,000, maybe more, pounds. which is an insane amount for such a small creek. I'm about close to 80% of the way finished with the creek, and after I get done with that creek, then I'm moving on to another creek and another creek and another creek. My objective is to just not stop, just to keep pulling, and little by little get these creeks cleaned. Eventually I'll have all the creeks in the county cleaned doing it. It may take me a while, and hopefully, especially next spring, next year, which, we're fixing to go, it's fall right now, we're fixing to go into winter. So I anticipate not a whole lot of people are going to be wanting to get out in the creek, cold temperatures, like me, who my crazy butt is planning on getting a wetsuit so that I can get out there during this winter. But yeah, I anticipate hopefully once the spring hits that I should be able to get, a lot more group efforts doing this. I like picking trash in groups. We get a lot more, the last group haul I did, we got almost 600 pounds. There were 6 of us. And I think we only pulled for a couple of hours and we got that much, but, we had to stop them. My trailer was completely full. I couldn't, get any more. And so, I obviously can get a lot more in a group than me going solo. And I'm all for that. I'm also all for forming a local team of creek runners that could maybe even travel around to different creeks, maybe surrounding counties and things like that. It would be awesome. Like I said, I've got to figure out a way to get this to work out as far as with supporting me, and then branch out from there. But I think this is about it for this episode. I think it's about to stop rolling footage. So you kind of got to see, the grit of the whole thing of getting out there and just hardcore fighting this trash. And I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, in episodes after this, basically I'm going to try to constantly improve certain elements with it, improve angles, and improve eventually I would like to get a smoother camera, that isn't sort of bouncy. It has that sort of what's it called, smooth stabilizer. Has a better stabilizer with a better stabilization and things like that. It should go. It should look better. It's just, like I said, it's just taking time to develop everything, and eventually I'd like to have it in a way that I can include even more elements, include kind of like if you're playing a video game, like point systems and scores and things like that. I think it would be cool if I could have some sort of a point system with all this, where say like a can is worth so much and a bottle's worth so much points and stuff, and you could kind of like follow by that. So it'll be more like a video game. I think that would be cool. Like I said, it's just taking time to develop. And anyways, thank you guys so much for checking out first episode. Second episode will be up soon. And catch you guys later.